Well, good evening, everybody. Well, I'm recording this in the evening, so good evening. Um, I have been so busy and tired. I spent most of the day, this is Sunday, 27th, sleeping. But anyway, so I had nothing prepared. I didn't go to any show. There was a show down in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania today. I didn't feel like driving down 2 hours and 2 hours back. And so I just napped twice on the couch. But so I thought, I'm going to talk about something you don't hear a lot about in America, and that's Hornby. Very famous British model train railroad company. And, when I was a kid, didn't have much interest in anything non-American trains, you know. I think because when you're little, you can't relate to it, and we're talking, when I was a little kid, everything was in a book. So it was really far removed from you, you know what I'm saying? Now with the internet, I got friends in Scotland, England, all over the world from YouTube. And I really enjoy British trains. And I like how they name, like every locomotive has a name, it seems, and they paint their locomotives beautiful colors. And I've really come to really appreciate British railroads. And I don't know a lot about it. I'm just starting to learn about it and stuff. And but I just absolutely love the Flying Scotsman. And I bought that train set a couple of years ago. The train shop was closing in Windsor, New York, and I got it for less than half price. So I thought, all right, I'll get it. And I just love that train. I'll show it to you a little later. But I want to show you some Hornby stuff. There is a Hornby USA, and they don't. I messaged them asking, do they ever do shows, or they go to Amherst show? I mean, that is the place to be. I got no reply. They're really big in England, and they're putting out tons of product in England, and it's very hard to get Hornby here. Plus, you got the shipping, and now with stuff going on, I don't know what it'll cost. But anyways, Hornby has these companies, Lima, Verossi. I think isn't that a French company, Jolf? And then Electrotrin, which I just bought a Telgo train set, Amtrak of theirs. But those are the lines they bought under the Hornby name. And Hornby also has a lot of stuff like Airfix, making model airplanes, Scaletric, slot cars. And there's others, Corgi, die-cast cars and stuff. They own that too. But we're going to look at the train stuff and stuff that I've gotten. It's mostly just from Hornby USA. But I bought quite a few of their sets. But I'll leave a link to Hornby USA. You can check it out. And Hornby UK if you want to see the really great line of trains that they offer. So there's the newest trains that I got from them. So we'll take a close look at things. And they actually make some pretty good products. All right, so here is the Mallard, or I've heard it called Mallard or Mallard, record-breaking train set. Because this train did break the record. I can't remember. I'll look it up and I'll let you know. The box is kind of long. And I got this from Train World. Train World does offer some Hornby stuff. And by the way, Hornby trains, at least the ones that we're going to look at, are OO scale, which means they'll run on HO scale track like we use, but they're 1/72nd scale, which is very close to 1/87th, a little larger. Most people wouldn't notice if you run them together. So, and they also came out with the new TT line, which I think is 1/120th scale. That's their newest stuff. But like I said, we're going to concentrate on the OO. And they have an interesting system where they give you this mat. Let's see if I can just pan in real quick. With the train sets, and then they make expansion sets. You can keep making it bigger and bigger. Make it quite simple if you're new to trains to really get into making a bigger dual track layout. And I thought that's kind of interesting system. And plus, also they do a thing called eras. So everything's an era with British trains, which I find is interesting. We kind of in America, we tend to do, turn of century, early, pre-steam, or pre-diesel. The kind of that kind of thing. They actually have like era 1 through, I think they're up to 10 or 12, maybe even higher. I'm not sure. But anyways, so let's take a closer look at some of the stuff I've got. All right, so here is the Mallard, and this one set the record in 1938, July 3rd. It did 126 miles an hour, which is considered the record for a steam engine. Yes, there's a debate whether that's truly the fastest steam engine ever. Did the Pennsylvania Railway have faster steam engines? It's felt yes, but they weren't officially recorded. And then there's, you know, there's always debate. Regardless, this one is called the Record Holder, and it's quite a good-looking locomotive. It's a Pacific arrangement, the 462 wheel arrangement. Just got that sleek nose. They got those buffers. The British use the buffer system. There's no front coupler on this. And you got the tender. And the tenders have a walkway. So when these things are in motion, the crew can walk in through here, come out a door. The door detail on these are not. Yeah, right there. There's the door. And you can change crews and never stop the train. And this Flying Scotsman is designed the same way. And then this comes with 3 coaches. And they've got metal wheels. You know, not super detailed on the bottom, but there's detail. And of course, they use the hook and loop couplers. I'm not showing these real well, but I'm trying to go fast because this video will go on forever. But it's a gorgeous set. Yeah, like I said, these are starter sets. So you get a loop of track, a transformer, and a mat to put stuff on. And I'll show you my Flying Scotsman. You know, let me just push this back and we'll get the Flying Scotsman front and center. And there she is. This is one of my all-time favorite steam locomotives. I just think that green, that name, I just think this is a gorgeous locomotive. And this one, the tender does come off. So we can take a little closer look at the tender on this one. Oh, nice big hair. The fun of having a golden retriever in your house. And this one has a doorway too. As you can see, crew come out the door right there. And right on the wheel well, Flying Scotsman. If you ever watched the James May Great Train Race, James May had his Flying Scotsman from, I believe, 1972, he said. There's some detail, interior. And the Flying Scotsman had different colors. She was painted black, I believe, and Hornby's coming out with this during World War II. And the number varied. And I was just talking to a British gentleman at the last train show I went to, and he said actually there was, I always thought there was just one locomotive and one train, and that was just, you know, but actually they just take the placard off and put on the same model train. And run it back. That's runs. And I have more Hornby locomotives. Not a whole lot. I got a whole collection of steampunk that did not sell well for Hornby, but I think it's just cool as heck. And recently, this has nothing to do with Hornby, but I was at a pet store, and I'm going to build a steampunk either layout or diorama. And this is a little steampunk sub. It's supposed to, you know, it's an aquarium decoration. It's hefty. I thought, how cool is that to put on the layout? Someday I'll show you all the steampunk stuff. And right now, if you look in the back real quick, we'll just pan in there. Those are Hornby metal figures that I've been slowly painting. They're all steampunk figures. They made 10. I found the other one. That'll be the sub crew guy. But anyways, that's, like I said, that's for another video. And it's a shame it didn't work well for Hornby. Did not sell well, and it was hard to get. I have every piece almost, except for some small minor details. But like I said, I want to build a 3-layer steampunk, like a 2x4 layout kind of thing. I got a whole idea, but like I said, we'll save that for later. But I want to show you some stuff I got from Hornby USA because they're having a sale, and they make some interesting stuff. All right, so as I was saying, Hornby USA was having 50% off most of their train stuff. A lot of it's sold out, but there's still some stuff. And you saw this earlier, I'll show it to you, and that's an isolating track. And what that is, you can see there's a gap right there. So you'd have track on this end, you run your power through here, and this is a little jumper you can take off if you want. And this side, they make a little throw switch. It looks like the old, if you ever saw the AHM switch controls, they look like old throw levers they have in towers. That would plug in here so you can turn electricity on or off. So you run something in or run an engine in there, flick the switch, kills the power. And you know, it's like a toggle switch that you wire up, you know. And Pico makes something similar, but it has a little switch right here. You switch it, pink, pink. So I picked that piece up, and then they had a derail or a uncoupler piece. This came loose in the bag, and this would just fit right in there. And you can see it's spring-loaded, and that's for those hook and loop couplers. To uncouple those, and you have this little stand that clip in to mark, you know, on your layout where the uncoupler is. And then I picked up, this is a cool piece, the loading stage and crane. We just call it a platform. You have a little crane piece right here, you attach it right here. And then you got like a bag of stuff and boxes. And it comes pre-painted. And obviously you can just add to the paint and weather it some more if you want. But that's a nice piece. And then they have this modular field stone fencing. Now if you go out in the countryside, at least in New York State, when they started farming, they pick up rocks and they would just make piles and they make fencing for property lines. So these are really nice. And they come in a, you know, there's pack 1, 2, and 3. This one has the corners and straights. This one has some of the, you know, fences falling apart. Get the gate, some smaller sections. And then pack 3, you have some straights, some smaller sections, and some slightly curved sections. And I think they're, you know, they're really well done. If you want to paint them more gray, you can easily. But if you notice, these things sit outside, they do tend to gather moss and stuff. And do get, can, depending where they are, a greenish, tannish haze. Move this stuff along. And I brought some tunnel portals with the sidewalls. And these are brick. And once again, they are painted. And like anything, you can add more paint. But you know what? That's nicely done. Let's see if I can get these out of the box easy. Should have done it before I started video, huh? You get 2. And, like a resin, I guess. And those are painted, but very nice. I want it, like I said, all the stuff's going to be used on the steampunk layout. Give it kind of that British Victorian vibe. And the last thing I got was, I had enough that if I spent like, I don't know, $8 more, I get free shipping. So these were about $8. And shipping is going to be $10. So if you're, you know what, might as well spend $8 more and get something for it than just, you know, spend it on shipping. So I got these little lamp hunts. Let's get these out. I think they're styrofoam. I'm going to styrofoam everywhere. And these are really nice. Like I said, painted, weathered. Nicely done. Here's the other one. They make all kinds of buildings. I have a whole bunch. I think they made like 6 buildings for the steampunk line. And they're very heavy. They're all made of resin. They're all painted. And I just think Hornby does a great job for what you, for the price I think you get and what you get. I'm quite impressed. All right, I'll just show you a couple more pieces that I found laying around, because most of my British stuff's packed away in a tote marked British Trains. But I got this one because it's just so goofy. Once again, I bought this from Train World. It's the, of course, we call this a depressed flat car. The British call it a Lomac with Coca-Cola bottle. I noticed all the part numbers in Hornby 10 Tower on the R. R60170 was the part number for this. And it's just a, needs some weight in it. But it's just a little They do a whole Coke line. They have Coke trains and stuff. I just thought it was just, I don't know, a Coke bottle. Just too funny. And I also bought the steam locomotive, this 060. And the reason I got this, does have good interior detail. I think those are spring-loaded buffers. Is, well, let me tell you what that is exactly. That is an 060 OST J94 class, NCB Austerity. And I absolutely love the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That and Willy Wonka. Two of my favorite, well, they're up there, my favorite movies. And there's a scene where the car goes by this locomotive. I don't know if that's exactly the same one, but it was blue. I don't think it had that lettering and had a taller smokestack just for the movie, I guess it turned out. They put it on there for some reason. But anyway, so I wanted that look. So that's why I picked up that locomotive. I have a few other locomotives, but they're all in storage. But yeah, I just wanted to expose you guys to some of this British stuff. And, you know, like, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Hey, how fitting is that? And, but, you know, there are some guys in America interested in European stuff or Australian. And if you go to Amherst, there is like a European section. You got a lot of Märklin, I guess you call it. I'd say Märklin. I think it's Märklin. I don't know. Somebody will correct me probably. And you don't come across a lot of Hornby. Somebody had a whole bunch of used Hornby locomotives, and I was kind of interested. But actually, they sold well. I was surprised. And but yeah, I wish Hornby would show more of the, especially their buildings. They make some great buildings that you could use in American layouts. You know, there is some carryover from, you know, the old world to America. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of this British stuff. Like I said, I'll leave a link to both the Hornby USA, which is fairly limited, and Hornby UK, so you can take a closer look at their products. And you know, watching a lot of British modelers, I can say one thing. There's a lot of similarities between American modelers and British modelers. I imagine anywhere around the world. And that is, people love to complain. Wow. They don't like this. They don't like that. Is this a piece of crap? I mean, holy crap. But, so I guess we have things that, you know, bring us all together. Anyways, like I said, hope you enjoyed seeing this stuff, guys. And, you know the deal. Where you see me, which next weekend I'll be at a train show, by the way, up in Syracuse, Fulton, New York. There's a train show just outside Fulton, New York, in the Valmy Fire Department. So anyways, when you see me there, well, of course, you're going to see trains. What else would you see there? And then I'm going to look at trains down at the DeWitt Yard in Syracuse. But anyways, as always, have a great night. I just remembered I have the rocket set by Hornby, but it doesn't run. So we'll just do a little pan.